All right, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I'm a massive Man City fan. My name is Ryan. I go by Ryjack. Um, and I want to be involved in the online space on Twitter and on YouTube. And I just figured I got a lot of free time on my hands. I might as well give this a shot and see how it goes just for some fun. So, anyway, I'm from United States. I'm from Florida, and basically my whole life I was not really into soccer, football at all. I was a big basketball guy, big American football guy. I even liked baseball. It was all about American sports, and soccer just wasn't really prevalent in any part of the world or city that I grew up in. I never saw it on TV. Was never really engaged. But about 10 years ago, everything for me kind of shifted. And I'll start with the World Cup. World Cup in 2014 in Brazil. You know, I was pretty excited about it just because I knew about the World Cup and I remembered seeing the 2010 World Cup a little bit. I was a little bit young, but I remember seeing Landon Donovan score against Algeria and it put us through. And I remember watching that and getting excited. But I was a little bit too young at the time to really understand what any of that meant. So when 2014 came around, I got pretty excited and I was excited to watch the United States and see how we did. Anyway, first game against Ghana, we did pretty well. Dempsey scored in the first minute. It's one of the fastest goals in World Cup history, and that win, the late winner from John Brooks, was huge for me, and it just got me really excited. Fast forward a little bit through the competition, and we've got Belgium in the round of 16. Now, this game right here, brutal to watch just for an American. Tim Howard, I think, set the record for saves in a World Cup game. It was 18, 19 something. And we went to extra time at 0-0. Some man breaks the deadlock who I became very fond of. His name was Kevin De Bruyne. Now, I didn't know who he was at the time, had no idea who any of the Belgian players were, but the dude was very impressive to me. Of course, the Belgian team was much more talented than America's team, but this guy, Kevin De Bruyne, kind of bossed the game. He was very impressive. Scored a great goal. Lukaku scored a second. We got one back, but it wasn't meant to be for the states there. Now, from that point on, I watched the rest of the World Cup, got super into it, and I realized I wanted to support a team. I really needed to figure out who I wanted to support, and the only league that's really on in America at all is the Premier League. I only knew that it was on Sunday and Saturday morning. Sometimes I would be flicking through TV and I'd find it there. And that was the only league that I had any sort of knowledge of at all. So 2014 comes around, the season starts, and I realize I need to pick a team. So I'm playing. I got FIFA, and I see that Man City's they're a good team. I don't know anything about them really, but I liked basically using Man City in FIFA. So I start to follow them a little bit, and I follow kind of sporadically through the 2014 season. But in the summer, I kind of realized about transfers and there's this whole following of who your team is linked with and what's going on there. And I realized at the time, Man City, the team I kind of like at this time, are linked with this Kevin De Bruyne guy. Now, for me, that was a big name. I knew he was good for Belgium, and I didn't know what Wolfsburg was. I didn't know anything about the Bundesliga, but I liked that they wanted to sign this guy. And I think right near the end of the window, they get the deal done. I had no idea that he had played for Chelsea and he was a flop for in the Premier League before, but I just knew De Bruyne was joining Man City, and I thought, all right, this is it. This year I'm going to follow this team as much as I can. And from then on, watching Kevin De Bruyne play, it has changed my perspective on sports. I now watch Man City week in, week out, Premier League, Carabao Cup, Champions League, FA Cup, Club World Cup, whatever it is. I haven't missed a game in almost 10 years since I started watching these guys. Now, the current situation we're in, it's tough. It's the worst run of form I've seen as a Man City fan. Now I'm not a 30-year fan like a lot of us are, and they've seen the boys in the lower leagues, and I don't have that experience. I really got pretty lucky picking Man City and KDB. I've only seen real success. Of course, we hired Pep, and I figured out who that was, and it got me really excited to just support the team. That, of course, drove me closer to the club and understanding what's going on through Twitter and YouTube. And I've really liked watching these live streams that these guys do of, watchalongs or just discussions about who should we sign and whatnot, what's going on. And right now, the team is in need of a rebuild. I think we all are under the agreement that the team is aging. There's a lot of problems in the squad, and City needs to spend big. Hopefully, starting in January, in about 2 weeks or so. So I've got this lineup builder here, and there's just a few guys I've thought of, at least for myself, that I think would fit well in. And I don't need to do a full squad rebuild or anything, but I think everybody agrees in the central midfield is where we're looking to strengthen. Of course, number one on, I think, my list and most people's list is going to be this guy, Bruno G, Newcastle. Some reports I've seen are saying 60 mil will get it done. I can't imagine that's all it would take. Surely Newcastle are going to push for, close to 100. Maybe it doesn't quite get to 100. Kind of like how it was with Leipzig and Gvardiol, how they wanted 100. They wanted him to be the first 100 million defender, and we got in a pretty good deal there. Secondarily, if we can't get him, one guy I think that it makes sense just financially for us would be Kimmich. Kimmich has worked with Pep obviously before during his time at Bayern. His contract's up in the summer, and it's a free in the summer. But let's be honest, we need help right now in the midfield. He can't be much more than 20 million with 6 months left on the contract. I would say it's not my money. Sign him now. I don't know why you would wait for a player of that quality, a player that's world class. Even if he's 29, let's give him a 3-year deal. It helps the squad immediately. And in the next couple of years, he could become a rotation guy. But I think he can play next to Rodri. He can play right back. He can invert into the midfield. He's the first guy to really do that with Pep. He's the epitome of right back into midfield. Pep did that with him at Bayern, and now of course we do that with Rico a bit. But I think that would work. It's not super expensive. Those are my top two probably midfielders that I would be looking at. Now, there's another guy on the wing, and he can play on the wing, he can play on the right. Villarreal, Alex Baena. He's been gathering a lot of steam on Twitter these last few weeks or so. He's young. His numbers are comparable to KDB. He's, of course, not going to be the KDB replacement, but if you look at the analytics, he is one of the top 10 most similar players to Kevin De Bruyne, how he plays and where his percentiles rank. And that's got to be enough to consider, at least for me. There's rumors of a £50 million release clause. Not my money. I say pay it. We need help, obviously. He's young. He looks like he could be a superstar. We love the Spanish players here at Man City, so I'm all for it. I'm big on the Alex Baena guy. Hopefully, if Villarreal are on anytime this weekend or over the next few weeks, I'll be able to watch some of their games and really get a feel for him. But he seems like someone who fits in and is young and can be here for a while. Now, I know Kyle Walker's had a pretty rough time in the last 18 months. He's been declining, but I don't know what else anybody expected. He's 35 years old. You can't do it forever, especially as a wide defender. He lost a step, and I don't know. Seems like he lost some awareness as well. It doesn't make him any less of a club legend. It's just probably past the expiration date on when he should be leaving. I don't know if signing a right back in January is huge. I can't imagine we've been getting more than 2 or 3 signings. I've seen reports where we want 4, but to me, 4 signings in 4 weeks for a club that normally works pretty slow in the transfer window, I don't see it happening myself, like a backup striker. Um, but again, who wants to be a backup to Holland? Holland already plays every game, and he's just going to need a rest here and there. I don't know who really wants to sign up for that, but I'd be looking at somebody who could play kind of like Alvarez, but more so is a 10 or is a winger and can play striker versus is a striker and can play 10 or can play on the wing, kind of like Alvarez. Alvarez was more of a out and out 9 to me that had versatility to play in other spots. Um, I'd much rather have someone who is a, I don't know, 10, like an Nkunku. If he didn't have any injury problems, he would be great. We can't really afford more players that are injury prone right now, but that's somebody who I would look at, an Nkunku mold of a player. And maybe Alex Baena can be kind of like that. I just don't know if he's got playing alone up top in his game. Now, goalkeeper wise, I really think it's possible Ederson goes in January. I just don't see. It doesn't seem to me like the guy's head's there ever since he got the big money offer from Saudi. It just seems like that's all he's been thinking about, and it's always and who can blame him? I mean, it's astronomical wages, and he's already getting disrespected, or he feels disrespected by the fans, maybe a little bit, and by the club in playing Ortega over him here and there. It seems like he's ready to call it with City and move on. I'm happy with Ortega for the end of the year, but for sure we need someone to challenge there, and I don't know who is the one to fill those shoes, but ideally I would like a big goalkeeper signed, probably. Now, elsewhere, defensively, I've seen a lot of links to Anthony Robinson, and as an American, it's pretty exciting to see that. But personally, I don't really see him as a fit with Pep. If I supported Liverpool, I would be all over having Anthony Robinson. I think he would be a fantastic Robertson replacement. He just bombs up and down the wing, sends crosses in. I just don't think in possession he's that great or he's that technically gifted. In my opinion, to play for City, Pep wants technically gifted players and guys who are not going to give the ball away. That's why Nunez doesn't play in the middle. And I just don't think Robinson fits in that role. I don't see him being able to invert into the midfield like Rico does and be able to play 1-2 touch passes. I just don't see it personally. Now, if we changed our style and we went with more fullbacks, so, we had Robinson on one side and Frimpong on the other side, that'd be great for me. It would work super well. I don't see that happening. Pep seems pretty stubborn in his ways, and I mean, who can blame the guy? He's won 6 of 7 titles. He's won 4 in a row. It seems like he doesn't want to change, and he believes in the system, which is fine. But at some point, 1 win in 11, I'd be thinking about changing things. And that's really what I hope to see in January. I just hope to see a couple signings. One of these 3 guys or 2 of these 3 guys that I have here, maybe a backup striker, maybe a defender if we can somehow get Kyle Walker out the door. I just don't know how much we should expect in January. Seems like people are afraid to spend in January and sell in January, really. But anyway, that's all for today. I appreciate you guys checking it out. I'm new to this, but I'm very excited to be doing more of these. Hopefully I do a lot of live streams and interact with the chat and meet a lot of people who are also City fans, because there's not a whole lot of Manchester City fans here in Florida. I'm in the middle of Florida. I got all my teams, my local teams, University of Florida, that's where I went, but not a whole lot of Premier League fans and Manchester City fans here. So appreciate it, and I will see you guys again soon.